Hello Canada, welcome back to Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, we've got some breaking news. A plane had flipped over at Pearson Airport. Looks like the casualty number is slowly going up. So far, I believe it's 15 in total and 3 in critical. I'm just going to post up here the latest news update we have, and then we got a few more stories we're going to get onto here for today's episode. So let's hear what's going on.
We continue to follow breaking news out of Pearson Airport following a plane crash at London. We want to take you to some of the images our team has been collecting throughout the afternoon. Now we are learning through officials 15 people, a total of 15 people are injured, including at least one child. 2 of those patients are in critical. They're expected to survive. They were transported by Orange, one by Orange Ground Ambulance to sick kids in critical condition. Also expected to survive, that is a child there, and 12 other patients being treated by Peel paramedics for mild to moderate injuries. No fatalities, and all crew and passengers accounted for. This is the aftermath of this plane crash here from the afternoon. As you're seeing here, at least one person being wheeled away in a stretcher to ambulance. We don't have much information as to how this happened, and what you are seeing is a Delta plane that is upside down, wheels up here. Officials are just confirming that this incident involved a Delta Airlines plane landing here at Pearson from Minneapolis. Fire crews continue to stay at the scene at Pearson Airport. We also received images coming to our newsroom from folks believed to be on that flight there, including one video that shows the plane up close on its back here. This is the video, people being helped off this plane here. It is surrounded by smoke, firefighters working on this plane as folks are getting helped off. In the distance, you can hear somebody saying, "We're in Toronto, we just landed, our plane crashed, it's upside down." The fire department is here. Everybody, most people appear to be okay. New numbers, though, coming from Peel paramedics that a total of 15 total patients are being treated, 2 of them in critical condition. They're expected to survive. One, believed to be a child, transported to sick kids, is in critical condition, and then 12 others also treated by paramedics for mild to moderate injuries. The Transportation Safety Board has also deployed a team to Pearson Airport for this investigation here, and these are the images coming to our newsroom from our crew. Now, our teams have been trying to get more closer, not only to the scene, but the airport media is not generally allowed inside Pearson Airport. So we're being told to move out. And this is the visual that we are getting from our cameras here. And this is what's happening inside Pearson Airport. Folks waiting for their luggage, to pick up their luggage here. No doubt this incident is impacting airport operations. In fact, we are hearing from a source that tells City News customs is closed for the remainder of the day. Incoming flights are being deferred to Montreal, and this is what our team has been able to collect all afternoon. Again, 15 people injured, 3 critical in this Delta plane crash at Pearson Airport. The airline, by the way, releasing a statement saying that they are aware of reports of Flight 4819 operating from Minneapolis, St. Paul to Toronto Pearson International Airport is involved in an incident, but they say they are working to confirm further details as well.
So there you have it. I've been searching for hours here, other than a lot of live feeds that happen right after the incident happened. There's just nothing out there showing the cause of it, whether or not it was even on the ground when it flipped. Nobody knows anything. The second we find out more, I will be sure to let you know. We're going to move on here. So President Trump promised he would release a lot of classified documents. And of course, with RFK Jr. being part of his administration now, there's a real push to try and get all of the information about what happened. So they started cleaning house in what we call the syllable organizations, right? The CIA, FBI, et cetera, et cetera. And in doing so, it sounds like they're finding more and more hidden documents on that. So I'm gonna start you off with kind of where we were 5 days ago to what was just released today.
For years, presidents have insisted that they've told us everything they could about JFK's assassination, the 9/11 terrorist attack, and COVID-19. Well, in news that should surprise absolutely no one, they were lying to us. Governments were keeping the truth hidden in the dark. Now, with President Trump in office, we are finally getting some transparency. Anna Paulina Luna will lead the task force on the declassification of federal secrets. And in her press conference today, she did not hold back declaring that we've been treated like children for too long.
This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us.
People can think for themselves. What a concept. The truth has been covered up for far too long, and that is about to change. The investigations will look into the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK. It'll also look at UAPs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. Now, the first investigation will be on JFK's assassination, and the head of the task force has just revealed, from what she's seen so far, what she's discovered, she believes there were two shooters.
Our first investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination. And I can tell you, based on what I've been seeing so far, the initial hearing that was actually held here in Congress was actually faulty in the single bullet theory. I believe that there were two shooters, and we should be finding more information as we are able to gain access into the SCIF, hopefully before the files are actually released to the public.
John F. Kennedy was riding in a president.
So this is going to be a big bombshell. Trump was, one of his main claims since he first got into running for the president was to drain the swamp. And he was talked out of showing this, especially MLK, Martin Luther King's censored, and obviously the government was involved in all the documentation. But he swore 2 years before this election he would never let that happen again, and he was going to change how he appointed people and make sure that there were no ties to the old government and its corruption. And that goes for the Republican and Democratic Party. And we're really starting to see that now. We're going to see the release of a lot of classified documents and information, all the way up to the new Epstein client list, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the bomb they dropped today.
Discovered 2,400 new records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. This is happening as federal agencies are working to comply with President Trump's executive order last month to release thousands of files. Those files have not been released yet, but the FBI says it's working to transfer the newly found records to the National Archives in order for the administration to release them and include these new documents in the declassification process. You know, I'm going to have to talk about this with James Robinault. He's our friend and presidential historian. 2,400 records, James. How do that many documents get discovered, and does that mean that they were missing before?
Yeah, I mean, this was a big surprise because if you read my piece in Vanity Fair, my interview with Jefferson Morley, who I consider to be the real expert on all this stuff, he said, the most looked for documents are CIA documents, and they're the ones that are the most redacted, and a lot of them have to do with Oswald in Mexico. So the fact that the FBI now comes out with 2,400 records is a huge surprise, and one that, we're going to have to figure out what happened here. But I got to tell you, way back when this all happened and these records were created, and the Warren Commission investigated and so forth, I understand there was a need for intelligence agencies and the FBI to protect sources, methods, and so forth. We're 60 years later, and there was an order of Congress in '92 to start releasing this stuff in full. It was all supposed to be out by 2017. So the fact that somebody's finding 2,400 documents means that one of two things. It means that people didn't look very hard, or they knew about these documents, but they felt constrained to not be able to release them until they got a presidential order telling them.
All right, a little bit of swamp talk in there from this guy. Previous presidents have said they were going to. They never had any intent on doing it. Just like 99.999% of all the politicians out there, they'll tell you one thing and do something the complete opposite. They're all married to the system, and the world is starting to shift away from the typical political party regime and starting to vote more independent, especially with certain people who can change an entire party. You got to remember, Trump was a Democrat, loved by Oprah, loved by all of them, until he said he was running as a Republican. And the reason he did that is because in the last 20 years, the Democratic Party has slowly became the swamp. They take turns. It depends on who's being bought out. Wherever the most money is, those are usually the people that win consecutive elections. We're going to move on a little bit. This is some more breaking news. The States is getting really sick of Canada. The fact that our parliament is prorogued, we have a lame duck for a prime minister. He was lame when he first got voted in, let alone the fact that now he's literally even worse. There's nothing's being done. Everything's false promises. Provinces are footing the bill instead of the federal. Mainstream isn't talking about this and putting the blame where it should be. I'm just going to play this clip. This is just some more information flooding out of US media right now. And like I said, they are not happy.
Illegal Canadian coyotes are using Tic Toc to promote crossings into the United States, revealing secret routes and offering services to migrants. New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis is urging a federal probe, saying the Department of Justice should investigate how these apps are being utilized for nefarious activity and get cooperation from the companies that operate them. Here to react is co-chairman of the Northern Border Security Caucus, Congressman Ryan Zinke. Congressman, great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us. Obviously the southern border gets all of the attention, but the amount of border that we have with Canada, especially in a place like your home state, is pretty amazing, especially considering what we're starting to see come over that border.
Well, and the danger is they're going to go where we're not.
Right.
And the northern border has had hundreds of crossings from people on the terrorist watch list, as you know. And, it's in this massive border. Montana alone, it takes 16 hours to go across Montana, and the border is 10 hours of a drive and largely unprotected. Trump has an agreement. Of course, we have 10,000 Mexican troops patrolling the southern border, and we have the Royal Mounties on the northern border, but still a lot of border and a lot of distance between officers.
So obviously in the last couple of weeks, we've gotten some assurances from Canadian officials that they're going to try to take this more seriously. This is a problem you've been dealing with much of your career. Is this do you have any faith that Canadian officials are going to step up and actually do anything?
Well, they certainly have the potential. The relationships are a little on ice, no pun intended. But the border, both countries have to take it seriously. And there's a lot of things we can do jointly, especially our ports and harbors patrol them jointly. But certainly the Canadians can do a lot more. And that was a big push from President Trump on tariffs. So look, we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to take our borders seriously. We're going to take New York seriously. We're going to take Washington, D.C., our capital, seriously. And we're going to return to let's make America great.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Jerusalem today.
So multiple media sources all down in the States are, of course, especially now with this whole Tic Toc and the apps. But there's a lot going on down there where our media is they're so bad. The Americans, Republicans and Democrats, are totally aware of how corrupt the Liberal Party is. This is our major fight. Everything about that party is evil. They are supported by China, corrupted by China. The interference goes through elections. It includes drugs, money laundering, real estate, and goes through politics from the bottom straight to the top, especially at the top, because everybody knows how the turd, loves China for its basic dictatorship. But it also funnels down into all of our other organizations, from Border Control, RCMP, everything. This is serious, and the media is just completely avoiding talking about the major issue on why America and the Trump administration has had enough and is coming for us. I'm going to move on to a different story that hasn't been getting a lot of air. Greece has been having major earthquake swarms. This has been going on for a couple weeks. Now, in the beginning, there was a little bit of talk about it, and then it just kind of died right off. So I'm just going to post kind of what they were saying 2 weeks ago. And then I'm going to leave you guys with a live cam on there. And I want to keep this video short, but in the last 5 days, these earthquake swarms have started to replicate itself in Italy. And now we've had an eruption in Italy. I believe it's Mount Etna. And the underwater plate is starting to crack and fissures opening up with lava. Now, of course, I'm not the end of the world. I'm not doing that. It's just something to be aware of because we have never seen this happen before. Seismologists from all over the world, along with geologists, divers, everybody is either there or en route. This could be huge. This may be nothing. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. So let's just kind of give you a reminder of where we're at. And then I'll post the live. They actually have cameras that are going 24 hours a day. And I will post that link in the description as well, so that you can put it in a tab or whatever and always be able to click on it in case you do hear something in the media you'll have literally a visual of what's happening on the island at the time. And you got to remember, this island is completely empty right now. They've evacuated it. There's very few people on there, lots of geologists, lots of surveyors, seismology, divers, etc. But the population itself, they were literally raced out of there a week and a half ago. And I think 6 days ago, the last few of them left. So let's see.
Santorini, one of the most beautiful islands in Greece, usually swarming with tourists, now a virtual ghost town. After several days of near constant earthquakes hitting the island, perched on the rim of an ancient volcano, residents are fleeing in droves. Since Saturday, hundreds of small and medium quakes shaking the island and its people's resolve.
Our Santorini is shaking every 10 minutes on average. A lot of earthquakes. There is concern.
In the past 2 days, at least 10 earthquakes above magnitude 4.5 have hit off the coast of Santorini, known for its stunning white and blue buildings.
There have been earthquakes all the time, every 5 minutes. It is continuing.
So far, 13,750 quakes have occurred in the last 16 days. They have seemed to start to slow down, meaning not 5 minutes apart anymore, 8 to 10 minutes apart, although there's a higher variation in the seismic stress. So as opposed to having lots of 2.3 to 3.5s, now they're seeing 1.9s to like 4.5 5s. So even though there's less of them happening one after another, the ones that are happening seem to have a lower average and a higher average than what they've seen over the course of the last 16 days.
They don't stop at all. The entire island is traumatized.
The quakes so far only strong enough to rattle houses, causing minor damage and some landfalls. But the bigger concern, worry that the quakes could set off an eruption from the volcano at the center of the island. Scientists say that's unlikely, but warn a large enough earthquake could trigger a destructive tsunami. That's what happened back in 1956, when a 7.7 magnitude quake struck Santorini, destroying hundreds of houses, causing a massive 20-foot tsunami and killing upwards of 50 people. The catastrophe devastated many on the island, plunging them into poverty. This time the country says it's more prepared. The Prime Minister declaring a state of emergency on the island, but urging calm.
My job is to always err on the side of caution, and that is why we have mobilized the state infrastructure in the eventuality of a bigger earthquake.
A response team is already on the island, with search and rescue dogs to find anyone potentially trapped under the rubble. Hotels and resorts asked to drain their pools so shaking water doesn't destabilize buildings. Schools ordered to shutter for the week for safety. More than 10,000 people have fled the island since Sunday, many boarding a ferry service headed for the mainland. But even with the unnerving, constant shaking, some residents say they're not going anywhere.
We will stay here.
So like I said, this was a week and a half ago, 9 days ago. So a week and a half ago, a week and change. There's hardly anybody left now. The shaking has been so consistent that a lot of, even though they weren't necessarily seeing buildings kind of come tumbling down, the fractures and foundations because of this have come unglued. So I don't know if you noticed earlier, there was a few statues in there and you could see the cracks that were going up, that anything that's been freestanding has suffered severe damages. A lot of the foundations of some of the oldest architecture there seems to be holding. You can thank that, old school, man, when they don't build it like they used to. But a lot of the newer stuff seems like it's going to have to all be tore down. I'll try and keep you guys posted on this as stuff goes up, as with pretty much everything else. And other than that, I don't think there's much else to say today. Make sure that you hit the like, subscribe, and share, and hit the notification, punch that bell so that you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai.